Hi and welcome to day 2 of week 1 of training cycle 3 of 2021. Back at it, moving along, chugging along, moving these weights. Today was another fun day. I did a bunch of important stuff, learned a bunch of important stuff. Yeah. And yesterday I spent a really large portion of the day sitting down. Today, I kind of spent a large portion of my day sitting down, and the other part I was basically standing up for prolonged periods of time. So my back wasn't really feeling it today. I was actually in a slight bit of back pain while warming up during the squats, which never happens. And yes, it's a nerve thing. This is not a muscle thing. So this is the bad pain. This is the pain that you want to be very worried about. This is the pain that can hinder you from training, hinder you from living life, hinder you from being happy. It's that type of pain. But when I say that, I don't mean that the pain was that intense. I'm just saying that it's that type of pain that can stop people from functioning. And there was one period in my life where I had extremely bad back problems, and it was 100% due to one single sporting injury that I had. Luckily, that was many years ago, and I thought I would never recover, but I did. By the way, it was so bad so that I had very large difficulties getting into bed and getting into a car. Just to, take a lift somewhere or whatever. What's it called? Like, after that taekwondo training session, after the session where I hurt my back, I went to the car and I literally couldn't get in the car because my back was not only cramping, which is very painful, it was also just darting kind of nerve pain in my back. And nowadays my back is very healthy, but when I do really stupid stuff, I do get back pain in small amounts. So I have a good relationship with my back, if that makes sense. And I have a good relationship with my body in general. And I feel when it's time to back off, I felt like I was on the edge today, living on the edge. But that once I got through a little bit of the warm-ups, as long as I really focused on keeping my back in a fairly neutral position, don't bend sideways, just be careful. I walked out that really heavy squat, completed it, very minimal pain, and then did the back off work and everything else, and I just felt better and better as the workout went on. Now, what hurts my back, if we want to put it in those terms? Well, basically too high amounts of stress. Now, when I say stress, I mean that could be really hard twisting motions. Like if I play golf and I just twist my back and just, kind of swing that club as hard as possible with more of a twisting motion, which is kind of not the optimal technique, but you twist your core hard. That can leave me in back pain a little bit sometimes, very seldomly, if I do it too much. Now, also if I overdo deadlifting, and especially if I have a super rounded back. For example, today was a good day. I managed to hit around 90% of my max with a fairly straight back, although the speed was slow. So basically, too much stuff where my back's rounded over. I will get back pain eventually. I could get that from one rep if it's an absolute mega max and I'm just rounding like extremely much. And I can also get it from rounding slightly, but for a lot of reps, a lot of volume over a long period of time. So I have limits when it comes to my back, but most of the time it goes well, and I'm very lucky to have a healthy back, because if I didn't, pretty much every hobby I've ever had would be impossible to do, and impossible to have, and impossible to maintain. The back is a very, very complex part of the human anatomy, and some injuries, like breaking a forearm, for example, really aren't that bad in the grand scheme of things, and you will never notice them once it's healed up. For example, I've broken my right arm back when I was probably like 9 years old, 8 years old, something like that. like my body functions perfectly. I don't even think about the fact that I once broke my arm. It doesn't feel like it. My arm feels stable and strong. But if I were to have injured something in my knee, all right, injured something in a ligament in my hand, a ligament in my hip, if I were to injure something when it comes to the nerves in my back, right, getting pinched nerves, slipped discs, these are the injuries that you guys should watch out for. It's joint stuff, all of it. Now, that's going to sound obvious because the joints, that's where the magic happens, as well as the brain. But if you want to talk about like places in your body that you really want to watch out for injuring, your back, your neck, your shoulders, like these are places that are terrible to injure, right? Then another big one would be knees. That's horrible, but you can still live a good life with bad knees. A bad back, that hinders basically all human movement. Your back is involved in everything, whether you're sitting, lying down, moving around on the floor. You can't do anything, you can't swim. Like anything you can come up with that is low impact on the knees will still hurt your back. So we've really got to take care of our backs, and we take them for granted. And I mean, if you have back pain at this age, it's going to be really fucking bad when you grow older. So we just got to get strong, try to stay healthy, and hope and pray that the pain takes, a lot of years before it finally comes creeping back. That's what I'm hoping for. Because it's pretty clear that most of us are going to be in crippling pain as we become very old. But the question is, how can you delay that process as far as possible? It's the same thing with sarcopenia, muscle wasting. Oftentimes, it's going to happen to most of us, or a lot of us. But what can we do to delay the process? Well, what we can do to delay the process of muscle wasting as we get older is train throughout our entire lifetime. And during our older age, I'm going to say, well, it really depends on when you started training. But for me, since I've started training so young, and I'm going to stay very consistent, I'd say anything over age, probably 40-ish. That's when we just need to really try and hold on to and maintain as much of our muscle as possible for long periods of time, and really focus on staying in shape, staying healthy, right? Just like that. Staying in shape, staying healthy, keeping as much muscle as possible. Because having muscle and being strong, having a strong skeleton, having good and healthy joints, all of these things are byproducts of strength training. And I must say that old people, we often associate them with weakness, all right? And that weakness like kind of represents their health status. So where I'm really going with this is I'm saying try to get as strong as possible and try to keep that strength. And even as you age, even when you're 68 years old and you don't care about looking good because you've been married for, I'm not good at math, but let's say you've been married for 30 years, right? You don't care about what you look like. You don't care necessarily about much other than just living your life. But to that person, I'm still going to say, you better get under a barbell, all right? Because it's really, really, really going to help prolong your life, make your life more enjoyable, improve the quality of it. Quality of life is a tremendous, tremendous asset to have. And a healthy body, at this point in the history of the world, for 99% of the population, cannot be bought. Alright? Maybe Elon Musk can buy some super crazy back surgery mega operation where he turns himself into a cyborg after breaking his back, and now he's completely fine. But if you or I hurt ourselves in that way, we're never ever going to be able to pay for something to reconstruct our bodies on that level. So we need to take care of our bodies. Alright, I'm going to say that my generation and the generation after, we may be the last generations that will really benefit from physical training. Alright, something big's going to happen after this. Big things are happening all the time. We're moving further and further away from hard work, and we're moving more and more towards science, innovation, new methods, new ways of doing things, making life more and more and more efficient and minimizing effort. Alright, it's part of the autonomization of the world. What I'm really trying to say is we are still in a generation, my audience, you guys and me, we're still in a generation to where physical training is basically the only almost guaranteed way to live a healthy and long and happy life, and in conjunction with proper diet practices and doing things that you enjoy and trying to stay happy. These are really the only solid and helpful and reliable ways we can live longer and happier. But pretty soon, like if I ever have children and grandchildren, I'd say that my grandchildren, they might not ever have to get under a barbell, because there will be other things. There will be different, something else is going to be figured out when it comes to health. And, far into the future, we're probably going to move towards being some form of cyborg species or something of the like, or something even more advanced. So it's going to be interesting, but for now, the best way to get strong, get jacked, is just to get under 100-kilo barbell and hump it into the air, as you can see here. Yeah, talking of these videos is just kind of stupid because it's like a 17-minute video, and it's kind of hard to just talk randomly for 17 minutes. I think I make a good politician, actually. I have that politician skill of just being able to talk without actually saying anything for meaningful periods of time. Yeah. But anyway, we're working the glutes, working the lower back, and a big tidbit, not even a tidbit, but an important piece of information for you guys. You can hurt your back on glute bridges. Be careful, right? You need to look towards your kind of crotch area, look kind of, instead of looking at the ceiling, look towards your feet, towards your knees, if that makes sense. The reason for that is then you're going to flex your abs, your stomach, and you're going to avoid hyperextending your back backwards, which would create a bad position for your back in the glute bridge. So you can actually hurt your back in glute bridges worse than you can while doing deadlifts. Keep that in mind, guys. If you use glute bridges, hip thrusts, anything of the like, be careful with make sure that you use a technique where you don't put pressure on your back. And trust me, you're going to feel it. Anyone who has a back, basically, healthy or unhealthy back, you're going to feel it. When you're doing it really wrong, you're going to feel a lot of pressure in your lower back. You may even get lower back cramps while doing glute bridges, which is a glute exercise, a quad exercise, and to some extent a hamstring exercise, and by no means a lower back exercise. Yeah, now the glute, on to good mornings. The good morning is also another interesting one. I really hate this exercise. It felt a lot better than yesterday though. Yesterday was just dragging ass, trying not to die while doing good mornings. I hate this exercise. It's really uncomfortable, and you can lift so much more weight by just modifying the technique slightly, rounding your back slightly, whatever. But just keeping that back flat and using your hamstrings and using your lower back to kind of stand back up. And you can see there, my back starting to round over due to fatigue. This is such a difficult exercise. And if you can do like a third of your 100 max deadlift for multiple sets of 10, you probably have a pretty strong lower back, man. Now, remember and take note of the fact that I'm doing these with a difficult technique, right? I'm doing them with a Olympic barbell, or just basically a straight barbell, which makes it more difficult than and more uncomfortable than, for example, a Cayman bar. And not only that, I am also using a very close stance. Alright, that close stance and going deep, that matters. Now, the thing that makes this exercise easier is the amount of knee bend you have. Alright, if you have completely straight knees, this is basically a very uncomfortable, kind of unnatural movement pattern that is just absurdly difficult. Now, if you bend your knees too much, like I did here, it becomes like a very strange squatting motion. So I believe the 4th or 5th rep here, I kind of figured it out. Probably this rep right here. Yeah, still bad. My good mornings look bad and uncontrolled, and that's because they are. They aren't terrible, and trust me, this is an exercise that you can really, really hurt yourself on. So I've got to be careful with this, and the weight doesn't really matter on this exercise because the barbell is so far up on your back, and your center of gravity is so far forward when you lean over, so that, and the amount of shear stress is so high on your back, so that your spinal erectors have to work extremely hard to lift a weight that otherwise would be very easy to deadlift. Yeah, now I've talked worthlessly, aimlessly for 17 minutes. Sorry if I kind of melted your brain cells or whatever. I'll see you guys tomorrow.